friends. Sorry, I always have technical difficulties. So, 1 second. I gotta pull this up. Because I had to shut it down. So, I've been in the, Coctopus, Coke, Americans for Prosperity, what's wrong with the right, health, that I never thought I'd be in, ever. When we started Virginians for Children's First, did not have any inclination whatsoever that how bad and dirty this was. So I had heard, watching my dear friend Ted Lamb last week in one of his lives, talk about Southern Poverty Law Firm and their hate and extremism report. And it's interesting because I was researching, again, the Cox. And I came across this short version of a book that was written. I'm not reading all of it, but I found the summary, and it's called The Co-opting of Education by Extremist Factions. Now, I came across this while, again, researching the Kochs. And there was a particular, we'll get to this real quick, because this is very telling, okay? Because when they, the left, talks about Gromsky, Marx, Mao, as education extremist factions that have destroyed nations, but they leave out all the really, really important stuff. But what they do add, and this is how you research, guys, is that you have to read the stuff that you wouldn't normally read. But, so I don't know if you guys have, hold on. Okay. So, I don't know if you guys have ever seen this, but, let's share screen. I don't need audio, but just in case. Okay, so, the Southern Poverty Law Firm. And the reason that I have add me to the list, this would be thanks to my dear friend, Ted had that great suggestion, is this is the most, but this is what we're up against, guys, is that you have to understand that this isn't just one crazy group, okay? This is what we're up against, because if you were to research the same hate and extremism, blah, 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 you're going to find it globally. If you were to Google co-opting education by extremist factions, you're going to find this stuff all over the globe regarding Rwanda and everything else under the sun. And do you know who's to blame for all of it? The far right. The alt-right. As Phil Kazmarek called those of us. And it was reading an article that it was clarified to me what an alt-right is, and that would be a white supremacist. So people within our own party, okay, then you have to look at what I've been talking about, the Koch brothers, okay, fully funding AFP, Americans for Prosperity, okay, and I can't get off on that today. And then you have to look at Youngkin's actions, okay, and then look, I mean, guys, this information is who Americans for Prosperity, what the Koch brothers, they're not conservatives, okay, first of all. They're libertarians at best, okay. They're pro-open borders. They are opposed to banning critical race theory, banning any kind of curriculum. And so when you have, it's not just like one of those like, well, AFP could be, they get money from, no, they are Koch-owned and sold. So is Freedom Works. That's the problem that Virginia's having, okay, is the people that just decided our Republican primaries are funded by people who want not just limited government, but no government. They have taken libertarian, like, they make Bernie look like, I don't even know, George Washington. I don't know. But these are people who literally their goal for the last 40 years has been to, like Antifa, F it up. Destroy the whole government. And then you look at, anyway. But this, A Year in Hate and Extremism. Now you'll see that it has various pieces. And then of course we'll get, you know, the hate, they map it. Okay, so we're going to go to this one. They do this every year, by the way, for years. So of course they have to start out by talking. So Susan Quirk, she joined 2 weeks after the insurrection. Trump's big lie was exposed. And she was hopeful both parties' political leaders would choose to protect our nation from extremists. So we're the extremists protecting our children. Okay. She was wrong. I was wrong. 2 years post-insurrection, GOP leaders have unabashedly welcomed notorious anti-Semites, conspiracy theorists, and white nationalists. I'm sorry, what was that? 5 Proud Boys at the march on DC to get rid of the jab? Was that what you're talking about? Because and as far as conspiracy theorists, because you don't like the truth, that doesn't make it makes it a conspiracy, not a theorist, a theory. Anti-Semites, it's pretty interesting that because when you bring up the H word, SIG, okay, and I'm on YouTube, and that's why I'm not saying it. And yes, we have to move to Rumble and any other thing. I get that, but is that when you talk about Adolf, and you're called an anti-Semite. That's another thing about the Koch brothers is that they're Holocaust deniers. Sorry. That was a 1964 paper that I read that I can't ever get that hour back in my life, but it was yesterday. So here they quote. This would be Gavin Wax from a New York Young Republican club at a black tie gala. They quote him, okay. "We want to cross the Rubicon. We want total war. We must be prepared to do battle in every arena, in the media, in the courtroom, at the ballot box, and in the streets." Okay. You know, but then when you look him up, so here's this, they left out the portion where he says, "This is the only language the left understands, the language of pure and unadulterated power." So this is, okay, so then the people who want to blast disinformation and black lies and the party of lies and okay, so they conveniently forgot to leave out the rest of it, okay? When we talk about war, we want war. God bless him. Amen. This is war if you're not already aware of it. We are in a war for our children's minds, their bodies, our rights. And so do we, yeah, I'm ready for Boston Tea Party, as we all should be at this point. We must be prepared to do battle in every arena. How is that hate in the media? God bless it if people like the Kochs and, you know, all the other Murdochs, you know, like hadn't bought the media. In the courtroom, at the ballot box, and in the streets. In the streets, it's funny that, we're not burning cities down, I don't think. But this is the portion they left out. This is the only language the left understands, but, well, you know what? She just cut that off right there. So, point number 1. And then she goes into over half of her public respondents, I'm not even going to click on that, And again, I'll put this. You can look it up. Southern Poverty Law Firm. I mean, they have like hate maps. I mean, these people are absolute bonkers. But reported believing the U.S. is headed towards civil war. Yeah. Yeah. Should have been. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. Why are we waiting? Threatened by the growing power of increasing diversity. Okay, stealing the word. We're not threatened by diversity. Okay? We're threatened by the fact that you're not even using the term the way that you mean it, and that 9/10 of the nation doesn't know that you're using the word differently. Okay? Diverse doesn't mean how we mean. We love everybody. Everybody's, melting pot. That's a hate term now. So increasing diversity, we love that. Okay, I would be hard pressed to find anybody to the right of center that is wearing their white whatever out burning stuff. Like it's absolute lunacy. And I talked to people like after watching The Sound of Freedom. It was the most beautiful gathering of people who did not care what color they were. We were talking about how we fix this, how we come together, how we bring things together, how the world that they say we live in is not the world we live in, but it will be the world our children live in if we don't stop it. Okay? Every color skin. Praying together. And I go, is that no? But will it be? Absolutely. If we sit and allow this. Like, when I'm like, bring it on. People are like, are you afraid? No, I'm more afraid of leaving this disgusting nation to my daughters is what I'm more afraid of than making a YouTube thing that pretty much says, bring it, Southern Poverty Law Firm. I don't care. The hard right movement mobilized hate and extremism from the main... What is this? Can I even... Oh, it jumps me down. So we won't go there because it'll jump me down to where she was. Extremist actors, often armed, brought hatred into our daily lives, public spaces, protesting LGBTQ inclusion. Okay, they always forget the children portion. Okay? I'm not transphobic. I don't hate trans people. I don't hate trans adults. Okay? I hate you going into my child's school teaching them things that their little brains can't comprehend and will never recover from because that's called grooming. Yeah, I said it. Is that now hate speech? Yeah, apparently. Because I got dinged on Twitter and refused to check the box that it was hate speech post Elon, that grooming is not hate speech. And as a survivor of child sex abuse, I'll say it all day long. Reproductive rights. Okay, let's talk about that. All right. We are not talking about the pill is bad. Okay. We're not like, oh, don't douche. Douching is bad. I mean, we're not talking about using like a sponge. Okay. We're talking reproductive rights. We're talking about killing live babies. Okay. So let's not get mince words here. Okay. We're talking about killing human babies. Okay. Classroom discussions of systemic racism. So they say it right there. Okay. That there is systemic racism. So we brought the hatred into their daily lives, protesting classroom discussions about systemic racism. Okay. So they're admitting they're talking about systemic racism, which means it does exist to them, which means that it is oppressor versus oppressed, which is critical race theory. Okay? That's how that goes. So you're admitting that there are classroom discussions about systemic racism. You have to learn to read the words. This is what cracks me up. Is founded to ensure civil rights for all. Southern Poverty Law Firm has deep expertise in monitoring and holding to account the KKK. Well, how many people you got on that? The neo-Nazi movement. Well, who's included in that? Racist skinheads. Yeah, because I see them out every day, all day. Anti-government militias. Like, does this all sound like the Proud Boys? Like, and other domestic hate groups and extremists. Okay. So to them, anyone who doesn't agree with them is a domestic hate group and an extremist. We do this as a part of our work to defend and advance a multiracial, inclusive democracy. Well, first, this is a constitutional republic with a democratic form of government. It's very different. Okay? Democracy, mob rule. Advance a multiracial. Yes, patriots. Patriots, bad. America first, bad. Here's another thing about how Kochs, they literally hate the term America first. Because to them, okay, because these are like totalitarian. They hate the term, I forget what they call it, but is that patriots, correct. Patriots, alt-right. Guys, keep in mind, you're going to keep hearing alt-right. When you have Virginia log cabin Republicans saying, bravo to Glenn Youngkin for purchasing all of these and allowing Americans for Prosperity to buy these different primaries because we have to get rid of the alt-right. Okay, so you're calling us extremists. Yes, they have. Because why? We have conservative values and we're not neocons. And we're actually that are libertarians aligning with the Koch brothers. So we are now the problem. Our party is disappearing in front of our eyes. Okay. The challenges are formidable. We must cast white supremacy out of the mainstream and prevent the violent and racist harms these extremists unleash in our streets, our churches, synagogues, and mosques, and our schools. I'm sorry, are we having white child walkouts organized by white alt-right senators? Ghazala Hashmi, Midlothian Middle School, Amanda Pohl, who ran against Amanda Chase, organizing it in a middle school. No, I'm pretty sure that was them organizing trans, and that's against the law, guys, to organize children to absent themselves from school. That's a misdemeanor and can carry, like, I don't know, however, it's a breaking the law. So I'm pretty sure that we weren't the ones burning down cities, unleashing anything into streets, and the extremists in schools. I'm sorry, is that parents reminding you that you don't own our children and that we still control them? That's what they're saying. But here's what's really, really interesting that you need to do. So in 2022, they created a new data lab to better track hate. Never defined. Hate. Never defined. Disagreement. To track disagreement. To track anything they don't like. Across the digital frontier. So, how frightening is that? All right. We established a unit focused on prevention of extremism using public health models. Okay. So, would that be people who rejected the jab? Parents who decided not to jab their kids with 18 different things at the same time? Using public health models. But our investigative reporting, okay, I have a journalism degree, this is not investigative reporting, led the national media in exposing extremist activity and influence. Get this, Our analysts helped policymakers, including bipartisan House January 6th Special Committee investigation, hold hate perpetrators. Southern Poverty Law Firm admits their analysts helped policymakers in the J6 Special Committee investigation. Where we have American citizens still locked up, being bopped all over the country, and people are not ready for, and you don't think they're going to come for you? These people did nothing wrong. But we have certainly people that have burned down cities who are allowed to walk free. You can't, sometimes you have to keep, they move these people. Sometimes we've had ones that we haven't even been able to confirm if they're still alive. They're not getting medical care. So you're not talking about domestic terrorism on our own people. But where's our government on that? So I'm not going to obviously go through this whole thing. Just highlight a couple of things. So the hard right movement succeeded in burrowing deeper into people's lives in visible and material ways, even if it did not have widespread electoral success. Its fingerprints are everywhere. People's homes, schools, doctors' offices, libraries, bars, restaurants, churches, and other community spaces. The fear and pain experienced by Black, Brown, and LGBTQ communities went far beyond any individual incident, deeply disrupting their ability to participate in any inclusive democracy. Kiss my ass. Kiss my ass. Any fear and pain you inflicted or that has been inflicted on you has either been up here because, I'm sorry, did I spirit murder your black joy or whatever you want to call it because I may have blinked at you wrong? That's the world we're in. If you haven't realized it. I love everyone. But if someone has been taught this, and even though I make eye contact, I smile, I open the door for people, almost every single time I hold the door for people. But the one person that I have an armful of kids that I don't, now all of a sudden I'm a racist, biat, whatever. And I have spirit murdered her black joy and I'm a white supremacist. That is the world, if we allow people to keep this dialogue going, that our children will live in. Where your color of your skin is all that matters. That's it. That's all these people care about. So we're talking about inclusive. You're not inclusive until everybody succeeds, which will never happen. And again, LGBTQ communities, we want you to be happy. We want you to live your life. We want you to do what you do. But just like straight people, we don't walk around talking about straight sex, straight all this, straight I do it in this way, I bend over that way with the penis and the vagina. Like, no normal human adult does that. So because you do it different and you want to do it different, good for you. We don't care. We don't want you talking about it to our kids. I don't want straight people, cis whatever, talking to my children about how they do it. So get over this, the fear and pain experienced by Black. Come again. Come again. Because I'm pretty sure that when I pulled up the data sets for this past year at the VDOE, white children were expelled, long-term suspension and short-term suspension, almost twice as much as any other color. Twice as much. Is that equity in action? Because I said it a year ago at a school board meeting that they were being punished differently, and the data set proved it. So where is your pain? that your children are not educated, guess what? That would be called PBIS, restorative justice. Don't discipline them because that's the prison to pipeline, the school to prison pipeline. No, you did that to yourself by saying that punishing them was bad. And now that they're bad in shooting schools and high school graduations and nobody can figure out why, it must be the guns. No, it's because you said the discipline was bad. Don't discipline them. That's racist. Grades, racist. So let's be clear, okay? The fear and pain, if you're talking about children here, you deciding to change the game because you thought equity was going to help them get educated. Equity has never made anybody a doctor, an astrophysicist. You're going to push them out with, as Amy Gadara says, a family supporting wage. Congratulations. You've taught a child one skill. They have no basis to even give change at a Food Lion. And we call that workforce education, entrepreneurship. But hey, nobody wants to talk about that. Even though it's been the goal since Chuck Robb of our children to recover the economy and make for America the #1 global leader since 82. Governor, it's the same thing. So congratulations. And then why is Governor Youngkin targeting Mecklenburg County? Petersburg. Who's saturated there? Right. His lab rat schools. Because guys, workforce education, vocation school is all wonderful after you have a foundation of academics. Okay. So let's just be clear here, right? Black and queer people were murdered in shocking acts of violence allegedly motivated by hard-right conspiracy theorists. As long as the white man lives, our land will never be theirs, and they will never be safe from us. The alleged white supremacist mass shooter who targeted the black community in Buffalo wrote. Alleged white supremacist. Where's the link to that? I'd like to see that. And then where's the Tennessee trans, or I mean, where are these manifestos of their shootings? Across the country, states initiated laws that forced teachers to cut and alter lessons addressing Black history. Yeah, I doubt that. I doubt it's Black history. Impacting student access to inclusive, accurate, and education. That's not even a sentence. Student access to inclusive and about the country's history of race. Accurate. Tell me how that works. In whose view? Is this your truth or the truth of accurate history of racism? Or inaccurate, are you going to talk about how the South was Democrat and the North was Republican when that whole slavery being freed thing happened? Is that accurate? Is it? Are you going to talk about how until morality was actually codified, that's what it took for slavery to become illegal, was to codify morality? Or is that not part of your accurate education about the country's history of racism? A wave of anti-LGBTQ demonstrations and harassment campaigns resulted in increased security at drag shows, library story hours, and pride celebrations, okay? Demonstrations, harassment campaigns against drag shows, libraries with children, okay? Children. And then it goes into all of these people. The right is increasingly expressing fear of a so-called great replacement of white people and depicting demands for LGBTQ equity as dangerously radical in the wake of visible progressive mobilizations, including the racial justice protests of 2020 for Black Lives. I think they're talking about Black Lives Matter and the racial justice protests of 2020 after George Floyd and burning the nation down. Pretty sure that's what they're referring to here. Backlash is a political backlash of what? Burning our cities down? I'm pretty sure that our party is so pathetic that there was no backlash. There should have been. Growing trans rights. Guys, here's the thing. Trans rights are not human rights. And I'm not hateful for saying that. Okay? Human rights are rights everybody has. Okay? Trans people are human. Okay? That's like black rights are human rights. Gay rights are human rights. Okay? Trans, by saying trans right, you have to not be afraid of saying it. Okay? It doesn't make me hateful. It makes me aware of the foundation of this nation that we live in. And back to my point is that if you don't want to live in a Judeo-Christian constitutional republic, we're not going to change it. I'm here to tell you, and you, and you, and you, we're not going to change it for you. You can go find a communist, socialist, whatever you want nation that already has it existing. But I'm standing here and now. Might be the only person. Because I can't find anybody except for my co-founder with a set of balls who will actually do anything like this in the state of Virginia. Go against both parties and say you're destroying our children and our country and our state. So, yes, my balls are bigger than almost everybody. Bravo. So, just going to really quick. So, that's what that is. And then, really quickly, I just want to, so let's see if there's anything else that, and then of course, this isn't just this. They have to have a map. Of course, you know, this is, Mom for Liberty, God. Moms for Liberty. Moms for Liberty. God, they said Hitler. And if y'all don't follow me on Twitter, it's great. I tag Gavin Newsom with a bunch of slides when I speak. If you've seen the ones with the Bolsheviks and Gromsky and Lukács and Mao and da-da-da-da-da. And I said, hey, I'm not Moms for Liberty, but I have a master's in geopolitical war history. And here's how this works. Is they're going after one group for a reason. Is because when you have a mass output into a national group mass, it's not going to turn out well. It's not. And that's the problem when you have, and I'm not speaking ill of them, I'm just saying that the national effort to actually affect change, they were inviting that upon themselves. And it's mainly because you cannot be grassroots from the top down. You can't have a national grassroots effort when we are a republic of 50 different states. It doesn't work that way because we're not all copycat models. So, I'm not saying that any part of it is right. I mean, these people are lunatics that go and did their Moms for Liberty was up in Philly and they paid money to go take pictures and analyze what kind of soy milk they had. Like, and can you believe that this, amuse-bouche or this custard, and can you believe how much they paid for this? Like, that's lunacy. Like, you're a lunatic at that point. I wouldn't pay money to go sit and complain about the lunatics that I don't like their food. I got better shit to do. But, and, let's see. Find a state. Let's see. Well, I know where my state is. What? Okay, now I gotta find, okay, this is Virginia. Oh. These are all hate groups. Oh, immigration control. I mean, we're right by DC, so of course everything's going to be hate if you're trying to control anybody. American Policy Center, American Renaissance, Bedford County Militia. Pretty sure it's in our Constitution that you can have that. So how's that a hate group? Christian Action. Oh, you said Christian. Gotta be. Constitution. Oh, anti-government movement. Constitutional Rights Pact. Now, Dominion. I mean, some of these do kind of send off alarms to me because, but that's for different reasons. That's for rhino reasons. League of the South. What in the hell? Okay. And again, you can click on, show me where the loyal white knights of the Ku Klux Klan are statewide, besides just having that there. Nope, can't. Oh, Moms for Liberty, Bedford. Moms for Liberty County. Campbell. Oh, Fairfax. Fuck your Loudon. Montgomery. Prince William. Roanoke, Spotsylvania. Okay, pretty sure that I know about 3 of those that are no longer in action. Stafford. Okay. And this is my advice when I hear from people who want to start. It's easy to start. It's an easy platform to start. But if you want to invoke real change, you have to do it because they're going to tell you how they want it done. And you're not going to be able to actually affect real change in your state. And again, I'm not bad-mouthing them. I'm simply stating the fact that homegrown, which is where we started, okay, growing something from nothing, with nothing, versus being given plastic grass to then lay down to look like grass, and then you look like you speak for the public because you have a public platform, when you don't, because you don't actually know what you're speaking on or fighting because it's not your developed platform. You see what I'm saying? That's the problem that we're having. And Americans for Prosperity is we are going to come hard at you until you get the hell out of our state. Period. Ty Turner. That's how I feel about you. Parents Against Critical Race Theory. Okay. Oath Keepers. Now I will say, they're disgusting. But Parents' Rights in Education, Virginia, like, what? Again, general hate statewide. Where? Like, what happened? What? You take me to... There's no actual fact, like, of what... There's nothing. Like... What in the hell is male supremacy? XY crew. Like, yes, that's called XY, as in chromosomes. Constitution Party. Like, Virginia Moms for America. Like, Virginia parents involved in education. God forbid. This is a hate group. If you're involved. Okay, so that's just how, I mean, the absolute lunacy. And no, I do not want to. But they have hate watch resources. But when I was reading, I will tell you that real quick. Let me tell you. I'm going to show you this. One of the most, which these groups, guys, that are pumping this stuff out, whether it's the rhino lunatic stuff or the left lunatic stuff, like JMU is pumping out comprehensive sex ed teachers. My alma mater, Virginia Tech, is pumping out like solar farm, destroy actual farmers, grow chickens from petri dishes. Not only that, but some of the most disgusting education. I mean, is that we are infested. Liberty, the stuff coming out of them, whole child, Chan Zuckerberg language, like. So I mean, it is everywhere. But I wanted to point this out to you guys. This is coming from American, which, by the way, I love when American University is cited as because it has the word American in it. It's in DC, guys. Okay. So they have created, now I got this from Southern Poverty Law Firm, is that, let's see if I have it. So they've created this, it's called the Polarization, I'm not kidding you, Polarization and Extremism Research and Innovation Lab. So they're designing how to fight back against us fighting back. This is how unorganized we are, because we can't even agree on what we're fighting for, which would be our children. Because everybody wants to be right about what this is and what this isn't. And meanwhile, they have freaking innovation labs and they're united as hell. I explained it, hold on, real quick. I explained it to like somebody that like this in education. Is imagine the Second World War. I'm going to use my history brain real quick. Imagine the Second World War. Those of you that are familiar. 4 theaters of war in the Second World War. And that means that there were 4 separate theaters of war. Would you go into that? First of all, you have to have a war plan. Okay. You have to have plans. You have to have generals. You have to have all the different, the Air Force, the Navy, the Marines, the Army, the Coast Guard, all the different platoons. Is that it's all organized. We are fighting, I would say, World War II equivalent in education policy with like 9 theaters of war, and everybody's flying kamikaze head first, like just flying blind. They don't know their enemy. They don't know what they're fighting. They don't know the terrain. And so when I bring up something or we talk about something that people don't like, the instant reaction is, oh, she must be a liberal. Why? Because you have no idea what you're talking about and you don't like it. Is that if you don't know your enemy, if you don't know the terrain, get out of the theater of war and stop perpetuating and let those of us that know what we're doing fight. But the polarization is that, guys, keep in mind right here they use caregivers, okay? Because, and I'm not going to touch on this a whole lot, but they go through and they have got how to talk to government and policymakers. Produce evidence. Don't you gather evidence? Not produce it? Oh, just thoughts. God, and this obsession with Trump, man. It's things like that. Like, the obsession is when you know that you are on the target and you need to stay there. Okay. But, so, what we're up against, guys, is that, so I've been reading one of them, Against Parental Rights. This came out of Columbia Human Rights Law Review. Okay. This is, you have to understand how all this works together, and then I'm going to close. Okay. Is that these people, excuse me, so the most common child-centered justification of parental rights, that parents are empowered in order to protect their child's best interests. I argue that these child-centered accounts do not justify the current legal regime governing parental rights. That's the language we are up against, okay? Is that the justification for parental rights. And the current legal regime governing parental rights, okay? These are people who talk about youth liberation from parents. this is all coming from the UN, but parental autonomy rights displace and diminish consideration for children's interests and objectify children. So this goes into when you want to homeschool your child to keep them away from certain things. And when we talk about how awful Sound of Freedom was, and then you have CPS and child sex trafficking and social workers being in our schools, and then the intersection with this whole anti-parental rights with children having rights. And if you want to remove your children from school to protect them, you are damaging them because you are not allowing them to be their fully actualized selves at 7 years old. You're blocking them because of what you want as the parent. Okay. What you birthed them, adopted them, you brought them into this world, but it's literally The Handmaid's Tale. Literally. You birthed them there. And like when Biden said it a month ago, he's not kidding. When Obama said it, when Hillary said it takes a village, she was not talking about it takes a village like we do. Okay. Let me find one more really good one. Okay, so she says, I aim to show that even if one is not persuaded that children should have rights equal to those enjoyed by adults, because that's what she goes, the scope and extent of parental rights in American law is deeply problematic and morally indefensible. And I put, fuck you. That's my comment next to it. And what does she cite? The United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is child rights. There's a tremendous political concern for children's welfare, educational quality, and safety, but the basic power relation between parents and children is rarely questioned or problem. So they talk about power. We have the power over our children, that we want to own our children. No, we don't. But I did not have a 4th degree tear, have to have my entire under region and be a single mother, work my ass off to raise my oldest until I met my husband to become a good mother. For you to come in, and after you allow our children to be raped, assaulted in schools, and do nothing and cover it up so teachers can keep doing it in other counties, to allow, you think that, because they're coming for our rights. If you're on Facebook, guys, just for next time, there's like a little box under the thing that it'll let you share your name. But it says, we started homeschooling in the 90s. CPS really did try to take the kids away. Homeschooling is tough. Like, people ask me all the time, oh, you took your kids out? Are you homeschooling? No, I'm not. Like, I just had to vet the hell out of private schools, and I still am like this. Because there's certain things I don't even want them teaching my 13-year-old through the eyes of God. I'll do that myself. Homeschooling is tough. And that's why, but homeschool parents, private school parents, I mean, everybody, this school choice thing, guys, like, it is not what it seems. And if we are lucky that I had the numbers that Glenn Davis didn't want anybody to see, which was how the funding, that he never alluded to how that worked out, how it worked out. And that would be that 2019-2020 census report that I had put together that showed that, divisions like, I don't know, let's see, I don't know, somewhere rich up, I forget which one, Falls Church. They would have gotten $3,000. That's the state funding. And they would have kept the $18,000 of local funding. She clarified, the state made it tough. Yeah, the state does, and Virginia is one of the states that we desperately need to fix the homeschooling laws. Like, there's states that are, I mean, Virginia makes it tough. They want to, they're constantly trying to be, I mean, I know somebody out in Powhatan who had a homeschool evaluator come, and that's one reason that I would rather send my children to a private school than have a homeschool. That just sounds like but then they started asking all these intrusive, like, personal questions and thankfully this mom works with me or works with us, and she asked her to leave and then called, and because there's too many parents that are afraid to do things like that. You're asking all these intrusive questions. I took my children out of school for a reason. Why are you asking me these things? What is this? How is this relevant? I'd like you to please leave my house. And then she called and complained and got a new one. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it is tough. But school choice is not the panacea. I mean, it's like saying No Child Left Behind was the okay, that didn't work. Common Core didn't work. So we're just layering bad I mean, now it's just the panic exit strategy, and they're using it, and the people using it are the elitists, and we'll go more to that later. But guys, this stuff is really important to understand, because these are people in law reviews literally wanting to rewrite. Okay, this is why we don't also want parental rights codified. It won't help anything. It will make it worse. This bit right here, denying children, okay, so rather, any account of parental rights grounded in a parent's separate interests supervening on the interests of their children has the effect of denying children equal moral consideration. Granting parent rights that are enforceable against their children according to the parent's separate interests has the effect of displacing and diminishing consideration for the children's separate interests and rights. Okay, and next to it, I said, you do not grant my parental rights. Okay, so when you hear someone say, you don't grant my parental rights, they are natural. That needs to be your immediate, because you can't not even have the conversation with somebody who uses the word grant parental rights. Okay, the state has to have a vested interest in taking them away, and that's through due process, 14th Amendment. Governor Youngkin, who still has not restored parental rights to hundreds of thousands of parents, the transgender model policy took away. Got it? That's how that works. Before you leave, people watching, that will get handled. But that's how that works. The government, the VDOE, wrote a document. The law didn't do it. The VDOE did it. Governor Youngkin has issued a new one he's not enforcing. And we have hundreds of thousands of parents all over this state who had their parental rights taken from them, which that cannot happen under the... So you are ignoring the Constitution and watching the country burn because you won't stand up and say, sir, you need to do something about this. Oh, legislator in my division that made it through his gauntlet primary. Oh, yeah. Start event down the street. Yeah. You're going to have to fix this. Yep. So it's going to take all of us. All of us. Or you can just sit back and just say, you know what? I don't care what my kid, my kid wants to change his gender. I mean, it's probably not going to happen. I'm just not going to get uncomfortable. I don't really want to force those opt-outs that are required by law. It won't happen to me. Until it does. Because, what's the law if we don't enforce it? But, this kind of stuff is really that's what I do all day. But back to this co-opting of education by extremist factions that I found looking up the Koch brothers. But I was reading it and I found, you can see all my, but it's about Foucault, it's got Freire, or let's see, Althusser, Duncombe was the one that if you saw my Facebook earlier, that I made the quote about. Where is it? But this is what's really interesting. So he said, it is more often than not a covert mechanism of social and economic control. To paraphrase Stephen Duncombe, when culture becomes a politics that doesn't look like politics. Okay, this is important. Now keep in mind, this is the left telling you this. Okay, it doesn't make it any less applicable. But you're not going to get it from the right when the right's doing it. You have to pay attention to what the left is saying. When culture becomes a politics that doesn't look like politics, when it becomes a politics by other means, it is deceptively hard to identify and thus nearly impossible to withstand. Okay? So when culture war doesn't look like politics, when it is politics, it is that's what we're in right now. Is that what I say to you, you can't identify with it because it doesn't make sense that it's political, and then it is nearly impossible to withstand. Like when things, and then, but I think the one that I actually did quote that was so profound to me, was, so it says, unlike a soldier with a gun or a political system backed up by a written constitution, culture resides within us. It doesn't seem political. It's just what we like and what we think is beautiful or what feels comfortable. As long as one believes that what is disseminated is apolitical, not apolitical, but like apolitical as in not political, normal, and even natural, consent will take place automatically and without disharmony. Thus, that what begins as ideology becomes truth. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. As long as one believes that what is told to you is not political, like culture, normal, this is the new normal, this is the way it's going to be, and even natural, it is natural that this is the way it is now. It has always been this way. You have been the unnatural one. Consent will take place automatically and without disharmony. Thus, what began as an ideology becomes truth. And that's where we are living now. So, I will conquer this more. I have a little one in a bunny mask next to me. And you want to say... say goodnight. Night. Okay. So, on that note, I haven't been on here in a while because I've been eyeball deep in the Coctopus, Americans for Prosperity. So, yeah, my kids are probably, sorry if it's pausing. They've probably been pulling on my wire. Are you on my wire? What wire? Get downstairs. Yeah, they're pulling on my, I have to hardwire. And when they pull on it. But anyway, I'll be back tomorrow. Talk to you later, guys.